What's going on, everyone? I am Jacob Rodriguez, and I'll be bringing you interviews and insights into the Cardinal football program all season long. St. John Fisher is coming off a 28-23 win on Saturday over St. Lawrence University, improving to 2-0 for the first time since 2021. Let's kick it to the interview. Joining us now on Fisher Football Focus is head coach Ed Raby. Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
So Fisher is 2-0 for the first time since 2021. What's the tone in that locker room right now?
I think there's a lot of excitement. At the same time, I feel like, we met yesterday as a team and felt like we left some meat on the bone again, 2 straight weeks. So there's a lot of excitement. We're really excited for the challenge this week, but we know we have to get a lot better.
Yeah, and Will Lederman for St. Lawrence put up a valiant effort on Saturday, accounting for over 300 total yards and 3 touchdowns. How did your game plan have to evolve throughout the game to ensure that you guys came out on top?
Yeah, they really just kind of force-fed the quarterback in terms of the quarterback run game. Mm-hmm. Didn't even really, it kind of felt like they weren't really even trying to get the ball to the running back. So it's always challenging when a team runs the quarterback and design runs because you're down a number. They can always have numbers on you. We didn't really have to change it a ton. I think we did a good job responding to it. We had some miscues that kind of led to some big plays, but for the most part, I thought we did a decent job holding them down.
Deontay Hall had a career game on Saturday, rushed for 110 yards on 19 attempts. He's averaging 6.5 yards per carry through 2 weeks. Just how great has he been for this team?
He's been great. I thought both of our running backs did a great job Saturday, and Hall's really just been playing at a high level. I think he's got great vision. The thing about him, too, is he's consistent. He's very consistent in terms of his reads, making quick cuts, running north and south. And as you've seen on Saturdays, he's hard to take down, too. So I think that extra yardage after contact has been big. And, I think he'll continue to get better as the year goes on.
Yeah, Camden Chance, too. I mean, what does a dynamic duo like that tandem do at the running back position? How dangerous does that make you as a team?
Yeah, I think it's always good. You're never going to get through a long season without having multiple running backs. I think our running back room has continued to get better throughout camp. I feel like even after those 2 guys, we have some guys that can really help contribute. And I think Chance and Hall are kind of very different in terms of how they play. Chance is a lightning in a bottle, right? Can get you to a big play right out of nowhere, and it looks broken, and all of a sudden he bursts out for a 45-yard gain in that game. Whereas Hall is more of the north and south runner, and can kind of get you the extra yards after contact. So I think having a 1-2 punch at the running back position is always a big deal.
Tim Vanderbrink also had a career game against St. Lawrence. He had 12 total tackles. How difficult does a guy like him flying around the field impact how imposing offensive coordinators have to game plan against your defense?
Yeah, I think the trick to our defense in terms of what we do, you always have to account for that guy. And then I think offensive guys have to kind of decide how they're going to play that position, in terms of attacking Tim. Tim's a guy that we really believe in that position, being able to fly around the field and make plays from sideline to sideline. So he's definitely somebody they have to key on, and every team kind of decides differently how they're going to attack it, but it's definitely a big part of our defense.
And in the first episode, we talked about how those great leaders were appointed by the people on the staff and the team, most importantly. How has their leadership impacted the team so far?
In a very positive way. I don't think it's just the captains, too. I think our senior class, has really stepped up. We always talk about the captains are obviously the figureheads, the leaders that people have elected, but you can be a leader without being a captain. And I think I always say that the team that is player-led is always better than a coach-led team. And I talk to the seniors every year at the beginning of the year, hey, this is your team, this is your last chance, whether you're going to play a lot or not, because some seniors don't play as much as they probably want. You have to have a leadership role. So I think our whole senior class has done a great job of stepping up, as well as our captains.
A lot of coaches don't think like that a player-led team is the best way to go. Where does that mindset come from for you, and how have you seen that be successful in your first few years as a head coach?
Yeah, I just feel like if you always, as a coach, have to be the one holding people accountable or reminding them the importance of preparation or the importance of, when you're having a bad day, still being able to execute at a high level, it just becomes kind of like mundane and kind of like people start to block it out. But when your teammates, your peers, right, the guys that count on you, that you're kind of they're relying on you to be your best. When they're the ones leading, it's just a lot easier, right, when it comes from your peers. So I've always felt like when the players take the horn, right, and be the leadership, it lets the coaches focus on teaching, and then the guys on the team know that, hey, if I'm not meeting the standard, I'm letting my teammates down.
All right, so let's look ahead to the U of R Yellowjackets coming up in week 3. They're putting up 34 points a game, and they're allowing just 15 points a game. So what's the game plan to come out 3-0?
Well, we're going to have to play our best football game. I think U of R, when you watch the film, obviously we're shortly into this plan, but they are very well coached. They're very disciplined. They don't beat themselves on both sides of the ball. It's on their defense, I think, has played tremendous the first 2 weeks. And if you look at the Morrisville game, their defense put them in some really good positions to score. I think it's unique what they do on offense. They're playing 3 quarterbacks, which you don't see a lot of teams do. So you kind of have to have a plan for each one, and they just haven't hurt themselves. So we're going to have to play our best football game on Saturday in order to go 3-0.
What do you come away from week 2 as things that need to be worked on before Saturday's matchup?
I think we're a wildly inconsistent team. We in this past game, I feel like we had 2 opportunities to kind of like have that killer instinct. We were up 14-0, and then we were up 28-10. And in both situations, we allowed turnovers or mental errors to kind of let St. Lawrence back into the game and make it a closer game than probably should have been, in my opinion. I feel like we could have executed at a much higher level. So, like for us, in order to be where we want to be, and accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, we have to become a much more consistent football team. And I think that's our biggest weakness right now as a team.
How does that conversation go with the guys in the room? Does that come just from you? I'm sure, your leaders in that room, whether that be your captains or the seniors on the team. I'm sure there's even other guys that are stepping up, just natural-born leaders. How does that conversation go about the inconsistencies?
I think it's just being honest with them, tell them the truth. I think sometimes when you're 2-0 and, you feel good about the start, like you kind of lose sight of the problems, right? And our job as coaches and leaders is to point out, hey, we're far from a perfect product. And, I don't have a problem with a guy getting physically beat sometimes, right? Sometimes, another person's going to physically beat you. But when you beat yourself, right, mental errors, and you don't align right, you don't know your assignment, or you're not executing the proper technique, right now we're doing too many of those things wrong for us to be successful. So it's just being honest with them, and they know they got to get better.
So once again, we thank head coach Ed Raby for stopping by, and best of luck heading into week 3 against U of R.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Joining us now on Fisher Football Focus is the first-year offensive coordinator of Cardinal football, Brees Segala. Coach, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So just first off, tell us a little bit about yourself. What steps have led you to being the offensive coordinator here at St. John Fisher?
Yeah, I would say, a local guy from Webster, New York, so not too far from here. Played my college ball at SUNY Cortland, and then after Cortland, had an opportunity to join the Fisher staff here. Coached quarterbacks, was a recruiting coordinator, and was coaching the JV team as well for 2 years. And then this past fall, I did not coach football. Got out of the sport, went and did some sales. Figured out it wasn't for me, and wanted to get back into football. Reached out to some schools, and then had an opportunity here to join Coach Raby on the new staff, and had the opportunity to be offensive coordinator. So obviously, it was a good one, and that's kind of how I made my way back here.
How do you like to attack those defenses?
I don't think it's as much about scheme as it is about fundamentals of football. So really just teaching our guys, how to properly block, how to protect the football, how to make concise decisions. Scheme can only take you so far in football. So I believe that, teaching our guys the fundamentals and really putting an emphasis on that is what's most important for us, as an offense here at Fisher.
And Fisher is 2-0 for the first time since 2021. What do you think has been the key difference early in this season in comparison to past years?
Yeah, I would say team football. I think that, and we're far from where we need to be. I think Coach Raby would echo the same message. But I do think team football-wise, the guys are playing more together. And, defensively, the guys have been flying around and making plays. So as an offensive coordinator and coaching the offense, it's, definitely a pleasure to have the defense do what they've been doing, because I think they've been playing some really good football. And I think offensively, like, our guys are doing what we're coaching them to do. They're executing. Again, we're far from where we need to be, and I think the guys on the team know that, but we're going in the right direction to get there. And I think special teams-wise, we've taken a big jump in special teams versus where we used to be in previous years, in my opinion. And I think that's been a big, big part of why we've been able to get off to the start that we've gotten off to, was because field position, things like that. So just team football. I think guys are playing harder for each other. There's a really good bond between the guys. And I think that's something that, you might not see when you watch the film, but like on the practice field, those guys are playing for one another,
Mm-hmm. And how have you and Coach Raby sort of meshed in both of your first year as head coaches, respectively?
Yeah. I think that working under and working with Coach Raby is a pleasure because of the fact that I'm going to quote Tim Vanderbrink, junior captain for us. Coach Raby is football 25-8. So he's got a blue-collar mentality and a hungry and desperate mentality that he brings to the plate every day. So, like, you never really earned anything. Like, you have to go out and, like, prove it each and every day that we have to play our best, execute at the highest level. And if we don't do that, we're not going to get what we want. So I think the guys really feel that, right? 2-0, off to a good start, but, like, practice is only getting harder. Practice is only getting more intense because that's the way it should be. And, like, that's what really good football teams do.
Yeah.
And I think that, working with Coach Raby and his style and my style and Coach Foley and Coach Ricky and all the other guys on staff, I think that we've meshed well as a group of coaches. And I believe that our philosophy together is, showcasing itself amongst the players.
So you took a brief hiatus in your career from being around football, but you were there for a while, and you were here for a while before. What kind of developments have you seen in this offense year over year, and in specific, Ryan Whitney, who started all 10 games last year as a starter and has gotten off to a good start so far this year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll speak on Ryan first. As a coordinator, life is easy when your quarterback is a coach on the field, right? So I think the one credit I give to Ryan is he knows where everyone else is supposed to be in addition to obviously himself, right? He helps guys get aligned. He helps guys know their assignments. So it's a credit to him and the time and effort he puts in to make sure that he's ready each and every week. And he's a good leader for our team, right? He's a good leader for our program. He was unanimously voted as a captain. So you don't just get unanimously voted if you obviously don't have the belief of your teammates. So I think that Ryan has garnered the belief of the guys and has done some really good things for this football program and has developed from last year to this year, and he's really, I think last year he learned a ton and got a lot of game experience, and there's no better way for someone to learn than through game experience. So I think that's shown in the first 2 games. Being cool, calm, and collective in the pocket is definitely in part of the experience he had over 10 games last year as a sophomore.
And now I have a two-parter for you. Back in 2021, you finished as one of just 15 finalists for the Gagliardi Trophy at SUNY Cortland as a senior starting quarterback. How has that experience of playing so well and at such a high level shaped your approach as a coach today? And do you feel that any of your background contributes to the amount of trust and buy-in that you get from your offense?
Yeah, I think a lot of my successes as a player comes from coaching, right? So Coach Fitzpatrick, he was the head coach at Cortland, and now he's made his way to being the head coach at Colgate University. So I think a lot of what I've learned from him, I've tried to take and use in A, my schematical style of coaching, but B, just like my philosophical approach in coaching. So I would have to credit Coach Fitzpatrick. And the buy-in from the offense or the buy-in from the team isn't just like me, and I don't think it's just me at all. It is the whole staff, and then on the offensive side of the ball, it is Coach Foley, our offensive line coach. It's Coach Newberry, our running backs coach. It's Coach Blake, our receivers coach, and it's Coach Toby, our tight ends coach. Those 4 guys dedicate themselves every single day to finding ways to getting better, and I think our kids see that, they buy into that, and as a result, that's how you create trust, and then on the field, we obviously hopefully play better as an offensive unit. So I think I would accredit those 2 things to buy in. Coach Fitzpatrick, obviously, with what I've been taught through him, and then obviously the other guys in the offensive staff who have been, giving it their all to make sure our guys are in the best spot to win games.
U of R comes into the week at 2-0 as well. Their defense has allowed just 15 points a game, and I mean, I guess what's the key to come out on top?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's playing consistent. Okay, our theme of the week as a team and really as an offense as well has been consistency, right? I believe in our first 2 games so far, offensively, we've done some good things. There's a lot where you can turn on the tape and be proud of, but I also think that we've left a lot on the table, right? I think that we could have scored more points, and a lack of focus and execution sometimes results in turnovers, which hurt the team. Negative plays and turnovers are a huge part of football games. So I think consistency for us is really what we need to do. U of R's got a great defense. They're only letting up 15 points a game. They are coached extremely well. Their kids play extremely hard, and they're extremely physical. So we have to be ready for a 4-quarter battle, right? Like, there's no doubt about it. This is going to be a 60-minute football game. Our guys have to play all 60 minutes, and it can't be a roller coaster, right? Can't have too many highs, too many lows. Got to stay cool, calm, and collective throughout the game, and I think that if our kids play tough and play physical and execute the assignments, then hopefully we can come out on top.
Last question for you, Coach. Are there any offensive coordinators or offenses in the NFL that you look up to and you try to learn from on a regular basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. I got 2.
Okay.
One, obviously working here at the university, having the Buffalo Bills here, that's pretty solid. So
Yep.
I love watching Joe Brady. I think he does some really cool stuff in motion and creative ways of using personnel to get individuals open on the field. And obviously having a front row seat in the summer, that's a not bad one.
Yeah.
And then my second one would be the Green Bay Packers with LaFleur. I think that the Packers do a phenomenal job of masking schemes through different formations, through different motions, but they're really running the same plays. And I think good offensive coordinators can run a small amount of plays, but make them look different to a defense. But your kids know that it's the same play, and they can rep it over and over again. So then, in my opinion, they get better at that simple play. So I would say Joe Brady and Matt LaFleur are 2 offenses that I like to watch, and I wouldn't say replicate our offense off of, but it's cool to find ideas and see what they're doing.
For sure. Coach Segala, we thank you for taking the time today, and best of luck heading into week 3 against U of R.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it.
That's going to wrap things up for this week's episode of Fisher Football Focus. As always, I hope you enjoy, and let us know who you want to hear from as the season progresses. Best of luck to the team heading into week 3 as they look to improve to 3-0 on Saturday against the U of R Yellowjackets. I'm Jacob Rodriguez. Go Cardinals!